right, let's go. This is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast on this Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. So excited for our guest today. We had a great pre-interview conversation. I can tell that the energy is going to be high, so stick with us, guys. This is Jerry Roisentul. He knows from firsthand experience that the difference between success and struggle is almost always an issue of mindset. In 2006, after suffering devastating loss on every side, he fell into a thick depression in which he intended to take his own life. Thankfully, he survived that dark time and spent the next 5 years of his life on a journey of self-discovery and introspection that caused him to understand one very important thing. Mindset was the most powerful tool he had. Having experienced deep pain and hardship, Jerry can channel that empathy into connecting with audience at the soul level. Professionally, Jerry has been a successful entrepreneur, having built his network marketing business from the ground up over the course of 13 years. He has been coaching, speaking, and training entrepreneurs, salespeople, networking, marketing, and business professionals for over 10 years. His Champion Summit event entitled The Mindset of Leadership has been attended across the United States and internationally to large crowds of people excited to change their mindsets and change their lives. Jerry brings humor, fun, and interaction so that every participant feels personally engaged. Energetic and dynamic, he's a John Maxwell certified coach, speaker, and trainer. What an intro. Coach Jerry is on. Welcome to the show.
Jason, thank you, my friend. That not only was that a great intro, but that was a great intro video. I was fired up just watching that video, the energy, the music. That's how you set the tone for what you're doing. I absolutely love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And a big shout out to one of my best friends, Mike Sergott, who created that video for me. So Mike, if you're watching, thanks for the video. It actually does give me chills every time I see it and hear it. And as I'm watching people watch it, I see everybody kind of nodding their head.
Yeah.
So it's
absolutely.
like, yeah, we got to get going. We got to go. So like I said, let's go. Let's have some fun.
Let's roll. Let's do it.
Jerry, do me a favor and just take a minute to kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, as we dive into this conversation today.
Well, let's see. Where can I start from? Well, I live out in the desert right now, out in the Palm Springs area. I was born and raised in West Los Angeles, grew up going to Venice High School, went to Santa Monica College, hung out at the Santa Monica beaches all the time during the summer. And, I was raised in a great household. One of the things I tell a lot of people when I do coaching is that we don't get to choose our parents. And so we just kind of hope the cards we've been dealt are actually good ones. And I know there are many people whose cards weren't really the greatest of cards when it came to parents, but I was one of the blessed ones who had two just wonderful parents. My dad was born and raised in Argentina. He came over to this country in 1963 with $200 to his name and built one of the most successful drapery businesses in Southern California. It's where I got my entrepreneurial spirit was from my dad. My mom was the typical, back in those days, the housewife, and her job was staying home and taking care of the kids and doing all that good stuff. And I was just raised in a really loving environment that was always very supportive of what I wanted to try and do with my life, even though sometimes it was way off the deep end. It was way out in left field. My dad would sometimes tell me, would you stop dreaming and just focus on paying your bills? And I would always tell him, Dad, I wasn't designed to just pay my bills. I was designed to do something bigger and greater. And so I got an AA degree in business from Santa Monica Junior College. And then I just realized that the college route was just not me. I'm not the studying person. I'm the doer. Let me just go out and do it. And so right around that time when I was graduating from junior college, I was introduced to a friend of mine who had a network marketing business in financial services. And I just had got my business degree. And I thought, well, this might be kind of fun. Never done it. Don't know how it works. But I got into it and I loved it. And that was the first 13 years of my career in business, was working in network marketing, in financial services, and just helping people manage their finances along the way. And that's kind of how I got my start in what I'm doing right now.
Wow. Very cool. Well, a lot of things come up in there that we can dive into a little bit deeper. My father was actually raised and lived in Santa Monica. So I always, whenever I go there, and my wife and I like to go down, we like to go down to Third Street Promenade. We like to go out and hang out
Yep.
by the beach.
Yep.
But, when I go down there, I kind of wonder, my dad told me so much about it what it was like growing up there and how different it is now than it was then. Tell me a little bit more about growing up, in that area and being around that area during that time.
Well, back in the day, it was a lot of fun. We're talking about the 80s, which
Best decade ever.
Right. Exactly. I always say the greatest music ended in the 80s because that was just the time. And it was just so fun to be able to just hang out with your friends in a different world than what we live in today, and be so close to the beach. Many times that was my place of solace when I'd have breakups with girlfriends, or I was going through challenges, or couldn't stand my parents for the moment. I would always go down to either Santa Monica Beach, or I'd go down to Marina del Rey, and I just walk the beach or sit on the sand and just listen to the waves crash. And it just puts your mind in this place of turning the noise off around you. I think part of the challenge, Jason, that we have today is that we don't turn the noise off around us enough to give our spirit and our soul time to just refresh itself. And I used to do that all the time living by the beach. And I do my best now to make that happen. I don't live close to the beach. I'm 2 hours away from every beach. I try to make my way to the beach as often as I can on the weekends and just go back to the place where I feel it just refreshes me when I need it.
Well, I love what you said about, we need to take some time to kind of step away outside of our busy lives and all the stuff that's poured into us, on a daily basis. I like you love to sit at the beach. I mean, I'm in Ventura County, so I'm a little bit closer. Like Malibu would be where we would go down to the beach, or I would come around the backside to the Channel Islands area. And I can remember many times in my years of consulting, one of my favorite things was I would do my consulting calls on the phone, and I would drive out to the Channel Islands area, and there was just this small little spot. Like there probably wasn't even 20 parking spots there, and I'd find this little spot, and I could see right over the hill and sit at the beach. And in between calls, you just kind of sit there and feel the ocean breeze, smell the ocean air, right? And just the water so calm and relaxing. And I think that's important, that we do take that time to step outside of our busy lives and just kind of decompress a little bit and enjoy that moment.
You have to. In fact, one of the things I also love to do was drive down PCH through Malibu and just take that beautiful drive along the coast. And as you're talking about the beach, I feel the beach right now. I can feel it right now as you're talking about it, because it's so much a part of who I am and how I grew up that it's just something I just love getting back to whenever I can.
Yeah, definitely. My wife and I, every time we go into Santa Monica or we head down to Malibu and we're near the beach, we're like, we're not very far. Why don't we do this more? Right. And so, again, just a great reminder. And that, driving that PCH when it's not rush hour, right. When it's nice and clear, it's super nice. I mean, driving all the way up is super fun. You also said right now you're living out in Palm Springs. We had a guest on not too long ago, a great coach with Thrive Fitness, Jay Nixon. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Jay Nixon?
No, I know about Thrive, but I haven't heard about Jay.
So Jay, I'm actually reading one of his books, currently finished reading one of his books recently, and great coach. Anyway, as soon as you said Palm Springs, I thought of him because he's in that area. But tell me what it's like. We just talked about living in being by the beach, and now we're going to talk about being out in the desert. What's that like?
Night and day. Night and day difference. It's funny. Everyone who knows the desert knows in the summertime, it gets brutally hot. I mean, we're talking the average day is 110. And every once in a while, you'll get up to 115, 116. And people always ask, how do you deal with that heat? Yep. And I know it is so cliche, but for me, you do just kind of get adapted to it. The dry heat is not as bad as the humid heat. When you have 115 degrees with humidity, it's almost unbearable. That's what air conditioning's for in cars, in malls, in movie theaters, in your house. So you don't go very far. But if it's just a dry heat, there's no humidity, it's really, you kind of get used to it. I've been living out here now almost 30 years. And I just love it out here. And I love the fact that I'm still, a couple of hours away from the mountains, from the beach. It's not that far. And you just find things to do that are fun. And the desert's growing so fast out here. It's nothing like what it was when I
Mm-hmm.
came out here 30 years ago. It's a totally different environment out here now.
Yeah, it seems like every time I drive through, there's another new neighborhood, another new
Yep.
development. I have a really good friend who actually moved out to Arizona maybe 20, 25 years, and we would talk about that all the time. Talk about that heat, man, and you do get used to it. I mean, and I actually prefer the heat to what we're feeling right now in California, at least in Ventura County.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my! I don't pay this much to live in California to be cold every day.
Right?
Let me tell you that, right?
I
But
don't think
I'll take that dry heat over Florida humid heat
any day.
any day of the week, right? So
Absolutely. Totally
so
agree.
let's dive in. Let's talk about this devastation. Let's talk about the failures that you had lived through and that dark time in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really defining moment of my life for me personally. And, I had been building my network marketing business. When I started in network marketing, um, I didn't know how to lead myself out the front door of my own house, yet alone even remotely think of how am I going to lead other people. And I'll never forget that my VP at the time, when I went to him and asked him, what do I do for leading? And he said, well, you got to read these books by John Maxwell. Now, this was a long time ago. I didn't even know who John Maxwell was at the time. Little did I know he's the #1 leadership expert and trainer in the whole country. He's coming out with his 86th book next month, or this month, actually, in 2 weeks, in March. And so my VP told me to read 3 books: the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, Develop a Leader Within You, Develop a Leader Around You. So I did what he said, and it gave me this foundation and confidence in the fact that I can become a leader, that people are not born leaders, that they develop themselves into leaders, and that I was just as smart as anybody else and can develop myself into a leader. And I did. And I built a great business. I met my son's mom through the business, and we got married, and we spent 9 years side by side working together, building our business, having a great time. In 2003, in April, my son was born, and that was one of the highlights of my life. And unfortunately, once he was born, the dynamic of our relationship began to change. It was more of why are you always working and I'm here by myself taking care of our son? You're not here to help me. And it's like, well, I'm out helping you by trying to make a living so you can stay home and not go to work. And so we ended up going to counseling for several years. And then in 2006, in the summertime, in June, we amicably decided to separate for 90 days because everything we tried wasn't working. We thought, well, let's see if this works. And so I went and got a place for myself, and I started to slowly go into this massive state of depression. I went from having my son every day of the week, and my son at the time was 3, and now I had him on the weekends, just Saturdays and Sundays, and started to sink into this deep depression. My business started to be affected by it, and it was a really, really dark time. And in September of that year, 90 days later, we amicably decided to divorce. And so I went to my office and I gathered my leaders at the time. I had 8 leaders that had been with me for probably at least 5 years or longer. And I explained to them what was going on. I said, look, I need to take 30 days. I've got to go find a new place for my son and I to live. I got to get him situated. Can you handle the things in the office and do things for me until I get back? All of them. Oh my gosh, Jerry, absolutely. We got your back. We got you covered. Go take care of your son. Do what you need to do. So I did. 30 days later, I come back to find out that every one of those 8 leaders jumped ship. Many of them quit the business. Many of them went to join other companies. They left me high and dry, and my business sank faster than the Titanic did. And I found myself in November, 2 months later. I woke up. I was on the floor of my apartment. I remember this, Jason, like it was yesterday. I was on the floor of my apartment with a notepad, and I was writing my son a letter, who was then 3 years old, to try and explain to him when he got older why his dad had to take his own life. And it was a very dark moment because I was the mindset guy. I was the motivator. I was the encourager. I was the people that everyone came to for advice, for help, for guidance. And here I am on the floor of my apartment getting ready to take my own life. It was a very difficult, challenging time for me. And obviously, thank God, I didn't do that. And I'm a very strong man of faith. And that's what gets me through. And my faith is really what got me through, because I believe God met me in that moment and realized that there were greater plans for me than I could see in the moment. And my life was spared for that reason. And I just got up off that floor and said, okay, this is going to be a new beginning. We're going to do something different, but I'm going to take something from this experience to teach people. And my whole focus became, what was the difference between when I was winning and when I was on that floor? And the difference was, when I was winning, I had mastered my own mindset. I learned how to master the things that we all deal with, the doubts, the fears, the insecurities, the frustrations, the discouragements. I was mastering those. I had control of those. When I was on the floor of my apartment, getting ready to take my own life, my mind began to master me, and I lost control of it. And so my whole purpose from that point on was, I'm going to take the lessons that got me on this floor, and I'm going to go out and teach people to help them learn how to better master their own mindset and work through the mental blocks that we have that sometimes just break us down. And I thought I was going to just jump into success, but it was a 5-year journey that I was living off the residual income from my business at the time. Even though I had lost most of it, I still had my residual income, which wasn't much, but it was a 5-year journey of just trying to figure out what next and what am I going to do and where am I going to work? Because I personally, Jason, I thought I was going to die in my business. That was all I knew. That was all I did. I loved it. So I was lost. And then about 5 years later, I was at church, and one of my friends came up to me, who is a top leader in a huge network marketing company. And she came up to me at church and she just said to me, hey, have you ever thought of coaching? And I said, no, I haven't. And she said, well, you need to. And I said, oh, okay, I'll consider that. And she said, no, really. She said, you have a gift that people need to hear. You need to think about coaching. She says, in fact, I've got a meeting I'm doing here in the desert in 2 weeks. I'd love for you to come and coach the people that are going to be there. And I said, well, what do you want me to coach them on? She says, whatever it is that you want to coach them on. And she says, but you have to offer them something to coach with you. And I said, well, I don't do coaching. She says, I know, but you need to. She says, so what would you offer people for $20? I said, $20? I said, well, if I was going to coach people, I'd charge more than $20. She said, yeah, but nobody knows who you are. I said, oh, yeah, that's true. No, nobody knows me. I said, I don't know. She says, well, how about 45 minutes for $20? And I said, yeah, okay. So I go to her meeting in 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, there's 30 people in this room. I don't even know what the heck I'm doing. I have nothing. I just show up and say, okay, God, give me something, because I've got nothing. And I just start talking about mindset, talking about my experience. So 15 people that day sign up for this $20 coaching session. So I called my friend and she said, well, how'd it go? I said, well, 15 people signed up to coach with me. She says, oh, hallelujah. I knew this was going to work. I said, you don't understand. I don't have anything what am I supposed to talk about? She said, don't worry. Just pray about it. Something will come to you. You'll figure it out. And that's how my coaching business began. I had no curriculum, no material, no experience, no nothing. I just literally jumped off the cliff and grew my wings as I flew. And that has been where I've been planted for the last 10 and a half years. And that's taken me literally all over the world, having the ability to train, mentor, coach people on mindset and leadership. And it's just been a wild, wild journey. Incredible journey.
Wow. What an amazing story. Talk about, starting from the bottom and now I'm here. Right. Gosh, I was taking notes. I'm taking notes. I have a lot of questions. I want to know more.
I like questions.
Right. So, as you were telling this story, it reminded me of a really good friend here in my hometown. He's a funeral director. Right. And it was at, I believe, his grandmother's funeral that someone came to him and said something similar. She said, well, there was something about, did you see that light? And it was, you know, essentially, did you feel that spirit? You need to be a funeral director. And he's like, what? And he had totally different profession, totally different career. But as you were talking about that experience in the church where the lady is telling you, you should be a coach, you can be a coach, like something there, something bigger than all of us was there to put that message into your life. And so that reminded me of Robert Perez. Robert, if you're watching, shout out to you. I always love hearing your story. But yeah, when I was listening to that, I was like, wow, that's really some kind of divine intervention for real, right? And you talk about being a man of faith and taking that next step. Tell me a little bit more about how your faith has propelled you into this leadership position.
For me personally, my faith is I am who I am because of it. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have it. Faith has got me through many of the difficult challenges of my life. It's helped me to overcome lots of things. I just believe for me that was like you said, that was a divine appointment in that moment in time of my life when I had no confidence in myself. And, Jason, and you being a martial arts instructor, you probably do this all the time. But it took somebody like my friend to see who I could be, not who I was, and give me a chance to allow that to shine. And so many times in life, we walk around feeling less than, but it takes somebody else who can see beyond the walls that we put up to who's behind that wall and say, I believe there's something greater in you than what you are seeing, doing, living, believing right now. And I'm going to give you a chance to let that shine. And that moment of time was the change point of my entire life. I mean, I had two of them. It was, first in my network marketing business, and then it was in my coaching business. And it was just having the belief that somehow, some way, that there is going to be a door that's going to open. There's going to be a path that's going to show up. The fog is going to clear. I will be able to see what it is that I need to do. But I just have faith that it's all going to work out. I don't know how, I don't know when, and it may not even be my own plans. For me, one of the scriptures in my life says we can make our plans, but it's God who directs our steps. And so for me, I tried to shy away from doing what I wanted to do and waited for what God wanted to lead me to do. And I believe this was one of those moments in my life where he led me to something I would have never done on my own. I mean, as much as I love network marketing and training and coaching, having a coaching company, a business, mentoring people, I never saw myself doing that. So it took somebody who could see beyond that, who had faith in me when I didn't have faith in myself, to give me the platform to do that.
Well, amen to that. All of that. Very, very powerful statements. One of the first things you said was the fact that someone believed in who you could be, not just who you are. Right. And, it's funny, as we're going to talk more about John Maxwell, every morning I read the Daily Reader, the John Maxwell Daily Reader. That's my morning reading every day. And I actually post it on, on my Facebook story, and I pulled it up here. And I think this is, something just important to point out as well. Helping another person to win is one of the greatest feelings in the world. I haven't met a person yet who doesn't like to win. And everyone I know who's made the effort to help others has said that it is the most rewarding part of life. And so, as a leader, how important is that to be able to make it our job to help someone win? And that person believed in you. And now here you are as a coach, telling other people, I believe in you. I know what you can be. I mean, yes, you're 100% right. As a martial arts instructor, I get this. Yes, I get this. I see it every day in my students. And, one of the hardest parts, for me, quite honestly, as a leader, is that I sometimes see so much what they could be and what they are capable of, almost and I almost want it more for them, especially for the kids. I want it more for them than they want it for themselves. But it's being able to have the skills, the tools, and the gift to be able to bring out that best in them as well.
Right. You know, that is absolutely, I mean, everything you said is so true. And one of the things that I teach people this all the time, and I believe this with every fiber of my being, is you can take somebody who's got all of the right everything, the right skills, the right training, the right scripts, the right verbiage, the right presentations, the right everything. Mm-hmm. But you take all of the right stuff out with a jacked up, messed up, screwed up mindset, and you're not going to be going very far. Mm-hmm. All of the greatest tools in the world will never help you if you don't get your mindset in check. Mm-hmm. Martial arts, you know this, you can have all the greatest skills, but if you're in your head when you're trying to go through testing or trying to do things and you're having the doubts creep in and tell you that you can't and you won't and you're not going to do this, all the training in the world isn't going to help you if your mindset is jacked up. Right. And, you know, I have a great story. I don't know if I could share this with you, but it's about my son when he was in Taekwondo. And this is a great lesson. I teach this story at my live events, and it's always the story everyone comes back to and always tells me that was my favorite part of the event was that story. So
let's hear it.
And you'll appreciate this, man, being a martial arts instructor. So my son's 7 years old, right? I decided to put him in Taekwondo for lots of reasons. Number one, protect himself, give him something to do, but to learn the discipline and the work ethic that comes through the martial arts. So he's at this point in his schedule when he's I think he was halfway to black belt. He was going to take his halfway to black belt test. And his instructor would always do these tests where he would never tell the kids exactly what they were going to be doing because he wanted them to think on their feet. Right. So he gets these 5 kids up. They're all 7 years old, right? My son's in the middle. There's 2 kids on each side. And the room is filled with probably 65 people, parents and friends and everything. Mm-hmm. So he tells the kids, today on our test, we're going to break a board with our hand. Well, I could see my son turned as white as Casper the Friendly Ghost. I mean, he broke a board with his foot, never broke a board with his hand. And so the first 2 kids that went up, broke the board, boom, just like nobody's business, like they were doing it since they were born. Well, here came my son. Well, my son was in his own head. I could see it from where I was sitting. So he goes and he takes his little hand and the instructor holds the board, hits that board, loud noise, nothing happens. Goes back, hits it again, loud noise, nothing happens. He's got these little red knuckles, goes back and hits it the 3rd time, nothing happens. And then just like a typical 7-year-old kid, can't get it done, feels embarrassed. He sits there and starts sobbing. So the instructor goes ahead, leaves Josh sobbing there on the floor. 4th kid did it, 5th kid did it. He sends Josh to me. So Josh comes moseying over. Have you ever noticed this, Jason, that when people are depressed, they walk so doggone slow? It's like, just speed it up, dude. He's like walking slow. I'm like, come on, man, we don't have time. So he comes over to me and I said to him, I said, Josh, do you want to break the board? He goes, yeah. I said, are you sure? Yeah. I said, okay, close your eyes. And he goes, okay. So he closes his eyes. And I said, now, this is what I want you to do. I want you to visualize the board in your mind. Tell me when you can see the board in your mind. He said, okay. And I said, now, I want you to, in your mind, see yourself with your hand breaking through that board. Tell me when you broke the board in your mind. He goes, okay. I said, do it again. See it again. Okay. Do it again. Okay. I said, now open your eyes. And I said, he says, okay. And I said, listen, do you want to go out there and break that board? He said, yes. I said, then listen to me. When you go out there, I don't want you to look at the board. I want you to look beyond the board. Mm-hmm. Because everything that you want to accomplish in this moment lies on the other side of that board. I said, do you understand? Yep. I said, who's my champ? He said, I am. I said, who is my champ? I am. Then get out there and go break that board. All of a sudden, the slumpy, slow-walking kid turned around, shoulders were back. He strutted out on the floor. I heard the Karate Kid theme song playing in my head. There went Daniel-san, and I was Miyagi sitting on the sidelines. And he went out there, and it was very obvious to me that his instructor did not think that he was going to break the board by his body language. But Josh got in position, took a look at me. I gave him the nod. He took his hand, bam, hit that board. His teacher fell on his back because he wasn't positioned correctly. The board broke in 3 pieces. Everyone is clapping and cheering. And Josh is sitting there on the floor with his mouth hanging wide open, like, I can't even believe what happened. And he grabs his little pieces of his board. He comes over to me. He gives me the board. And he says to me, "Dad, I'm a champion." I said, "You are, buddy." That changed his life. And
Yeah.
you know, the interesting thing, Jason, is the board represents lots of things to us: fear, doubt, insecurities, depression, discouragement, frustration. And the problem that a lot of people have is we're constantly staring at the board, hitting the board over and over and over, because we're marinating in the discouragement, marinating in the frustration and the fear, instead of looking beyond the board to what is going to happen. What am I going to get when I can get beyond what I'm dealing with right now, beyond what I'm feeling? That's where the true victory lies.
What an amazing story. I mean, to tell that over and over, I could almost feel the moments as you were going through, because I've been there for students in that very moment.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be more true that we focus on the front of that board and not what lies on the other side. And when we're focusing on the front of that board, that's what's holding us back.
Right.
And so I love it. I can see everybody's face as you tell this story. I'm sure every time you speak, people are just like, yes. And like, as soon as you said the board broke, I was like, yes, awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
I know, always the same reaction.
I know what that child feels inside, because I've had those moments. I've had those moments of doubt and fear and everything that you said, and staring something right in the face and worried about what's in front of me, rather than focusing on what's it going to feel like when I succeed? What's it going to feel like when I have a victory? What's it going to feel like as I go to the next step, right? Because that board is really only the first step to the next step.
And you know what, Jason? It's like going to the gym. If we always focused on, oh, I can't stand going to the gym, I got to do my workout, most of us wouldn't go. But we get to the gym and we think, this sucks, but the way I'm going to feel when I'm done, oh, that's what I'm shooting for. And that's the idea of looking beyond the board. I'm not excited when I'm in the gym doing the workouts. I'm excited how I feel when I walk out of there and it's done.
Absolutely.
It's the same principle.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk about developing this mindset, right? Yep. How do you help people? How do you explain? How do you create a system that develops that mindset? So for someone that's, when you were on the floor, right, contemplating taking your life, what was it that clicked? And then how did you just keep taking steps and then in turn teaching that to someone else to develop that mindset?
Well, that's a great question. Well, first of all, I believe that all of us at some level, we are all dealing with limiting beliefs. And some of us have more than others. Some of it affects us worse than others. But I've never met anyone, even truly successful people that I have had the privilege of working with, coaching, or even interviewing myself, that don't have those limiting beliefs that show up from time to time. And one of the things that I always teach people is there is a difference between feeling and becoming. You can feel depressed. That's a human emotion. You can feel discouraged. You can feel angry. You can feel upset. That's a human emotion. But there's a difference between I'm feeling depressed or I'm feeling discouraged, and now I'm becoming discouraged. When you feel something, it's a surface feeling. When you become something, it takes root inside of you. And when that takes root inside of you, it starts to affect the way you do everything in your life. It jacks up your mindset, what you focus on, how you think, what you do. And so I just learned along the way that I had to identify the limiting beliefs that caused me to get to that place in my life. What were they? Because you can't overcome, Jason, what you don't first identify. You can't overcome a challenge if you don't identify what the challenge is. If you say, well, I've got no challenges, but you've got problems in your life, well, you need to figure out what's the challenge so I can overcome it first. So I had to figure out exactly what it was that was holding me back. What limiting beliefs took me from where I was to where I ended up on the floor. And then I had to come up with the process of beginning to learn how to change those limiting beliefs. Not that they're going to be vanished, but that I would have the ability to manage them so that they no longer managed me. I would learn how to get my mind to work and help myself get through them. And so I went through this 8-step process, and I thought it made such a difference for me. And I still use it to this day, that I recorded a 30-minute training on the whole process of what I went through when I was on that floor, from identifying the limiting beliefs I had to the process I walked through to start getting beyond them. And I would love today, just as a gift to all of your listeners, I want to give everyone listening an opportunity to get access to that video. It's a 30-minute video. It's totally free. And it gives you the process that I went through on how to overcome that. And so if people would love to hear that, they can go to my website, which is championmentorship.com. And there's a tab that says resources. If you just hit that, there'll be a place for you to fill out your name and email, and instantly you'll be have the video downloaded to you. And you can watch it right there, save it to your computer, go back and listen to it again. But it was so important of how it helped me that I had to record a video that can teach people. Now, here's the thing. The video doesn't solve all your limiting belief problems. It's not like they're going to vanish in 30 minutes. Oh, I've got no more. No. That's not the purpose of the video. It's to teach you, how do you identify what they are, and how do you learn to manage those limiting beliefs like doubt and fear. Those are two big ones, right? I say they're cousins. They always travel together. They're like a pack of wolves. You'll never find doubt without fear. You'll never find fear without doubt. One of them is going to get to you. And so the idea is not, I will never have fear and I will never have doubt, because that's just not true. Fear and doubt will always be hanging around. But the difference is, when I work and coach with people, there's different processes and things I train them on and teach them on, how do I manage the doubt when it comes to me so that it doesn't take me out. I did a training years ago for a friend of mine called Don't Let Doubt Take You Out. And it's probably one of my most popular trainings I've ever done in the last 10 and a half years. It's been listened to by 45,000 people literally all over the world. And the idea is, doubt will be there, fear will be there, discouragement will be there, but you don't have to let those things be the reason that you're no longer in the game. You can learn how to manage those things instead of them managing you. And when I do coaching, live events, part of what I do is work with people on their individual scenarios and help them learn how to manage those things the way that I have, because I still get them, Jason. Fear still comes around. The doubt still comes around. The discouragement, the disappointment, they're still there. They don't leave. They're just like hanging out. Mm-hmm. But I've learned how to push them away so they don't become part of who I am. And then I function and operate from that, which messes up everyone's life.
Well, I want to invite you, Jerry, to please, as I mentioned, post that link into our group. As most of you are watching, you may be watching from the Master Motivation Podcast Facebook group. We have a group, a couple hundred people in there, that if you'd like to post that in there, people can click on that link, go right to it. And if you're watching now, I do want to invite you as well to join that group so you can get that link, and also keep in touch with some of the other speakers and guests that we have here on the show. You said this word many times. It just keeps sticking out to me, is managing the limiting beliefs, managing the fear and doubt. Go into a little bit more detail on what that means to manage those things.
Well, to me, managing those things is first acknowledging that they're there, not pretending that they don't exist. You have to acknowledge, okay, I feel some doubt right now.
Mhm.
Okay, but how am I going to manage the doubt? Well, here's a simple explanation, simple way to think about this. What is doubt trying to do? To convince you not to do something that you want to do. What does doubt put in your mind? Reasons that you shouldn't, reasons that you can't, reasons that you won't, reasons you're not smart enough, talented enough, whatever it is. Doubt is there to get you to not believe what you know you want to do. And so if we start focusing on, I really don't have a lot, I really don't know much, then we give in to the doubt. When I started this coaching business almost 10 and a half years ago, as I was driving to the meeting to go do training, it was like I always jokingly say, doubt was sitting in my passenger seat, dressed up in a three-piece suit with a tie and wingtip shoes. And all I kept hearing is, what a moron. What are you doing? You don't know anything about coaching. You have no trainings, no curriculum. You've got no experience coaching people. You're going to make a fool of yourself. You're going to embarrass yourself, right? That's what happens to us. But here's the thing. You either give into that and say, yep, you're right, and don't pursue what you want, which is when doubt manages you, or you do what I did. And I talk to doubt. I know this sounds stupid. People are going to go, oh my God, he's lost his mind. I talk to doubt like doubt's an actual person. Because when I hear those doubts, I just say to myself, I am not believing that. I'm not owning that. That is absolutely not the truth. This is what I believe. This is who I am. And this is why I'm doing it. And I'm going to go get it done. And when you act in spite of your doubt, when you act in spite of your fear, you are now managing those things instead of them managing you. It's acting in spite of what you're feeling. That's what that means to me.
Thank you. That was a great description, great explanation. As I'm listening to you talk about this, I had a question, earlier that started to kind of creep into your discussion there, was that, dealing with the pressures of being a leader can be pretty daunting at times, right? You're a speaker, you're a coach, and I'm a martial arts instructor, I'm a coach, and oftentimes, people believe that we don't have those doubts, and we don't deal with those insecurities, and it's really far from the truth, right? And like you said, learning how to manage it rather than it managing you. But we deal with having to be, for lack of a better term, perfect at times, right? They see us, on the mat or on stage, and they got it all together. And we've already talked about, some failures and some dark moments in your life. How do you prevent yourself, from going, too far into your head, and I guess accepting the fact that, when you're a leader, you're not perfect, right? So does that make sense? I mean, how do you process that? Because for a lot of leaders, I really believe and some people probably won't even say it, because we're afraid to say it. We're afraid to say, I get stuck. So how do you deal with that? And how do you talk with them about that?
Once again, another great question. I think for a lot of leaders have challenges having to have this persona of perfection. And when you have a persona of perfection as a leader, then other people look at you and say, I could never be like that. So you can't effectively lead people because they don't believe they can be perfect. So how can I be that person? I coined this phrase. I call it VAT, V-A-T. Somebody's going to say fat? No, VAT, V-A-T. And this is what I believe. A real leader is a vulnerable, authentic, transparent leader. They are not the people sitting on the pedestal. They are the person in the mosh pit with everybody else. They are just like everyone else. One of the things that makes John Maxwell an amazing trainer, just an amazing person, is John shares his struggles as much as he shares his successes. And what happens is When you let people know, hey, I'm not perfect. Yes, I deal with these things just like you then form a connection with people, and that connection forms a trust, and that trust forms a relationship that people want to be around you because you are real. We live in a world today where our leaders are the farthest thing from vulnerable, authentic, and transparent. Nobody trusts any of our leadership anymore. Why? Because of how they are and how they act, and everything is fine. No, everything's not fine, but we're sometimes afraid to say that because, well, how are people going to look at me? What are people going to say? Listen, if I'm being a real person as a leader and that upsets you, then you don't need to be around me, because I'm not going to change who I am to please somebody else that won't even be around long enough to really appreciate it. I'm going to be true to who I am. And I think that the greatest leaders, I've been around lots of speakers and trainers, lots of events like you have, Jason. I'm going to tell you, from my experience, nobody celebrates when someone gets on stage and talks about all their wins, their victories, their successes, where they live, look at the car, look at the house. I mean, they go, oh, that's great, wonderful for them. But when people connect is when a speaker, a leader gets on stage and says, let me tell you what I went through to get to where I am. Because when you let people see that you climbed over the mountains, you went through the mud to get where you are. It wasn't handed to you, gifted to you, didn't fall from heaven. You had to work your ass off for it. You had to struggle. You had to do this. You had to do that. The struggle is what inspires people to want to connect with you, not the victory, because they don't have the victory in the moment. They can't see that. Good for you. But what about me? Well, let me tell you, I was on the floor of my apartment. I almost took my life. I cannot tell you, Jason, how many people come to me at events, and all the training I do all day long, that's what they remember. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for showing me that it can happen for me too. And I believe that as leaders, we have to stop trying to be perfect and start being real and vulnerable and authentic with people, because that's what people need and want today, is someone they can believe in, connect in, and trust. And that's, from my experience, how you do it. The best.
Well, I have to say that I've really enjoyed the entire interview so far, but this topic right here, talking about that, I think this is, to me, what's going to stick out and stay with me probably the longest, because I love hearing that. I know that when I was younger and more immature, inexperienced, that I was a victim of that perfect persona. I had to be a certain way to be in that position. And, I think maybe, age has a little bit to do with it, but also the experiences that I've had in my life. I agree 100%, because I believe that connection is so important.
Yeah.
So important, no matter what, whether it's your personal life, your professional life, your business relationships. Connection is so key. And the only way to create a real, true connection is through the three things you said: is being vulnerable, being authentic, being transparent. I have a lot of friends in the martial arts industry. I have a lot of friends, people that I know that I've met over the years. And the people that I feel the closest to are the ones that have taken that time to not bullshit me, to not tell me how good they are and show me the picture of your car and the money and this. Like, dude, tell me the real story. And man, the struggle, absolutely, the struggle is real. And people can relate to that so much more. I mean, let's just face it, right? If I get on the mat and I'm a 7th degree black belt and I did this and I did this and I did this, cool, good for you. But when I say, when I was taking my 2nd degree black belt test and I was getting the crap beat out of me by my instructors, I know where you are right now. I know that feeling, right? And then they start tuning in a little bit more, and you walk them through what I went through to get to where I am, and you can too, right?
Now, what you just said is gold. 7th degree black belt. Someone who's starting off, for credibility, amazing. For knowledge, amazing. For this is why I'm going to teach you, incredible. I've got somebody who knows their crap. Okay, that's not going to inspire people. When the going gets tough and they're thinking of quitting, and you can say to them, hey, you know, when I was at this place, I was just like you. I almost threw in the towel. I almost gave up. I almost quit. But you know what? I persevered. I kept going. That's why I'm here. I'm here because of the struggles I overcame, not because I'm that good.
Right.
And that's what connect. You know, John Maxwell's new book coming out this month, his 87th book, is the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. You can pre-order it on Amazon. And one of the things John talks about in this book is that you can have all of the greatest content in the world, but not connect with people, and it won't have an impact. But you can have content that's half as good as someone who's got great content, but you know how to connect with people, and you're going to soar. Because connection, and how do you connect? You connect through the struggles that you've overcome. I am who I am and where I am because of what I've overcome. And if I can overcome it, so can you. That's how leaders should connect with people in the world today.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things about the interviews that I've conducted over the last almost 2.5 years is making this connection here. I mean, we're sharing some very real experience and real things that happen. And I just, man, it's awesome. It feels really good to make, when you know that you connect on a level with someone too, when you start having these conversations, amazing. Tell me the name of the book one more time, because I'm trying to write it down.
It's called the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. You can pre-order it on Amazon right now. It comes out in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it's going to be just the excerpts that I've read, absolutely been phenomenal.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading that. I've read, I would say, at least a good 10 books by John Maxwell. I forget. I'm trying to think. I always ask myself who introduced me to him first. I can't remember who, but I remember reading the first book and how I felt when I read it. I went and bought the second book.
Yeah.
And then I did, and then I would buy the workbooks to do it.
Yes.
And here you are, a coach for John Maxwell's leadership, which unfortunately we didn't get to dive in too much about how that happened and how that started. Maybe time for another conversation. I want to thank Juanita Cap for being on here today, guys. Juanita is an amazing supporter of the show. Check out her show, Meticulous Moments, and can't wait to have her on in just a few more weeks. And also thank you to everybody that's been watching so far. We're going to get ready to wrap things up. So if you are watching and you have any questions for Coach Jerry or for myself, please, any questions in the comments. Jerry, I want to turn it back to you for just a second. And if there are any questions that you have for me.
Well, for you, man, we don't have enough time. We don't have enough time. So I guess the question I would have for you is, you are 7th degree black belt?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I understand every level gets tougher and tougher and tougher. So how did you mentally get yourself in a place knowing that, okay, this next level, man, this level this belt I just got kicked my ass. Now this next level is going to be even tougher. And then the next one, how did you mentally get yourself in that place every single belt you went for? Because it was going to get way more difficult than the belt before.
Well, so I currently hold black belts in different systems and styles. Tong Soo is where I hold the 7th degree black belt, and getting ready actually to test for my 8th degree within the next few months. I also hold a black belt in Krav Maga, and just recently earned my 2nd degree. Purpose for telling you all of that is that, first of all, in Tong Soo, there's a lot of time in between, so I can lick my wounds and heal up a little bit, and let that holy shit moment just kind of drop for a minute, right? I actually told myself when I tested for black belt in Krav Maga that I wouldn't test for second degree. I said not because it was too hard, just that I had tested so many times. I was like, I'm not going to do it. And my instructor, Mark Cox, told me, no, you're not. You're testing. And I was like, no, I don't want to test. And he's like, you're going to test. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to test. And so part of it was having someone that wouldn't let me, in a sense, quit on myself.
Right.
Having someone that, like we said before, believed in me enough to say, come on, you can do this. The other part of that coin is that having been an instructor for so many years, it wouldn't be acceptable for my students to stop testing. So why would it be acceptable for me to stop testing? So not only did I have someone that mentored me, push me, and drive me to that next level, I also felt a sense of responsibility as a leader to lead by example and to show them the way. I mean, if I stop testing, at some point my students stop testing.
That's right.
Why am I going to limit and stunt their growth by doing that? And as far as the mental, I love to perform. I love to fight. I love to be physical. I love that part of it. I love actually getting up and doing it. I get psyched up. I tape up my hands. I got like music in my ears. Like on my last test for my second degree in Krav, like I was just having a great time. But leading up to that, it was a battle, like we talked about with the board. I had to focus on how I was going to feel after the test, not how I was feeling at the moment.
There you go.
Right.
That's right.
So all of those things kind of contributed to me continuing to test, and having a son who is also a martial artist who's getting ready to test for a high level black belt, both in Tong Soo Do and in Krav Maga. I've got some real inspiration from him. Watching I remember my son starting at 2.5 years old in diapers and growing up in the martial arts school. We're actually testing together. He's testing for 4th degree. I'm testing for 8th degree. And like just last night, I was like, hey dude, we got to do our forms. We got some reps to put in. Let's get on this thing. And I didn't really want to do it, but I knew if I incorporated him, if I pulled him in, we would be able to hold each other accountable. So that was nice too. But that's a huge inspiration for me as well. So
that's so cool. One of the things I truly love about the martial arts in general is the discipline that you develop, having to go through all of that stuff. And that discipline, takes you into your life, into your business, into everything else, because man, to have to learn those forms and practice those, the discipline, the commitment you have to have has got to just be, and you're dealing against your mindset all the time, and you have to push through, just like your friend who said, no, you're going to tell. Your mind was telling you, no, you don't need to do this. And your friend said, no, you do. That is managing your mindset instead of your mindset managing you. That's it.
Like Andy Frisella says, you have two voices in your head.
That's right.
Which one are you going to listen to?
That's right.
So, listen, this has been an amazing conversation for the past hour, and I appreciate everybody here watching. Please share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Master Motivation Podcast. We have some amazing guests coming up every Monday and Wednesday. I'm looking forward to it. And look, there we go. There's our friend. Mindy, thank you for introducing me to Jerry. This has been an awesome experience, and you are definitely blessed to have him as a friend. And I'm just excited that I was able to help share your story. So thank you for that, Mindy, and thank you, Jerry. Jerry, anything that you want to leave our audience with, just your final thoughts before we close the show?
Just remember that you are stronger than your struggles, and that you're better than you think. And don't give in to all the negative voices in your head. Work on learning how to manage those so that you can become all that you were created to be.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for everything today. I appreciate you. We'll catch up again very soon. Yes. Thank you again to everybody watching. Go out and make it a great day. We'll see you guys on the next Master Motivation Show. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. See you soon.
All right.